So you want to be an archer? Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be host today on Archery Talk 101. We have a special guest on the show with us today. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Roy, for having me on.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, when you got started, and maybe even why.
Okay, all right. Well, my name is James Holm. I live in northern Michigan on the northwest side of the Lower Peninsula, right on the Lake Michigan coast. We actually live about 5 miles from the lake, and I've lived here my whole life. I've moved away several times, but this is always home, so always end up back here. The archery thing started when I was super young. Fred Bear, of course, and then guys like Chuck Adams and the Wenzel brothers and Miles Keller, all of those guys. The cast of characters, we know them all. Tom Miranda, M.R. James, the list goes on. And now we get to talk to these people on Facebook. We get to be friends with these people that are heroes of our childhood. So the archery thing just got even more exciting for me in the last 5 years, maybe. At this point right now, I'm behind a crossbow. I've had 2 very invasive back surgeries, so I'm behind the crossbow now. But I've started to retrain the muscle memory with a recurve bow. So I'm flinging arrows with that. I thought it would come back much easier for me, but it's truly been a struggle, and it's a fun struggle, trying to get that back. So that's kind of where we're at now. Is my archery hunting. I know everybody will say it's not archery, but my archery hunting's with a crossbow at the moment. Not quite there with the recurve to where I'm comfortable enough to take it out and actually hunt deer with it, because I want to kill them, not wound them. So
yeah, and that, my definition of archery, the definition is a stick with a string flinging another stick.
Yeah.
So does a crossbow fit that description?
It does indeed.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's archery.
Awesome.
Yeah, I challenge somebody to prove me wrong.
It's right. You're right. It's a stick and string flinging a stick.
Yep.
With a sharp pointy thing. That's all.
Yep. Yeah, and they don't have to have sharp points. They can be bludgeons. A little board tip. Those work good too.
They do indeed.
So, what was it made you pick up archery the first time?
I think it was the thing that made me want to do it the most. Was I was out after I had a recurve bow that was given to me by my trapping mentor when I was like 10 years old, and I carried it everywhere I went with my arrows and my hip quiver, and I went everywhere with it. I shot rabbits and partridge, and there was really nothing safe. I was 10, 11, 12 years old. If it was there, it probably wasn't safe. And as we know now, we know better now, but then I was just a kid. And then I jumped a buck out of his bed as I was doing the squirrel thing in the hardwoods. I jumped a buck out of a bed. And from that moment, I knew that was the one animal that was probably going to not allow me just to walk up on it and sit there and let me shoot it. So then the challenge was on from that moment. And the first deer I ever shot with a bow was that same recurve, standing on a maple limb. A little 3-point walked right underneath me, and I let him have it and watched him tip over with a cedar arrow with a razor head on it, a Fred Bear razor head on it. So, and he didn't go 20. Yeah. So that's what made me want to do it, was jumping that buck out of that bed. And I knew at that moment that was the challenge, to get close enough, like I just did there by accident, to be able to shoot that deer. And I knew that he wasn't going to just lay there like a squirrel or a rabbit. So the hunt was on at that moment.
Yeah, we need get that kind of excitement out of just seeing them hop up and run off.
Yeah. And of course my dad was, you don't hunt deer with a bow and arrow. You can't, that can't be done. You can't do that. You're not going to do that. And then when I had to go home and tell him that I needed him to come and get a deer that I'd shot with my bow and arrow, he went, "Huh, I guess you can do this." So he was a little less doubtful of it from that moment. And I quickly progressed from that recurve into my first compound. And then 3-4 years I was really into the compound thing. And about the time the overdraw bows started to hit the market, PSC had that first overdraw, had to have it because it's fast. Figured out real fast that wasn't my thing. Didn't need all that speed. I didn't like it. So we went back to regular basics, and I shot a compound bear with no sights. Just my recurve, or my quiver never hung on the bow when I hunted. It was always on a limb or a nail or something. It was always a bare bow, fingers, no sights. I was never, and then when you couldn't shoot bows with fingers anymore, I went back to the recurve. When they shortened them up so much that you couldn't shoot them. Didn't like the releases. Now I've come full circle. Now I'm working my way back into that. There's some, as you know, there's some bows out there that are extremely adjustable for people who don't have heavy draw weight.
Right.
So that's where we're kind of leaning now. I'm going to try to maybe step into that. A little less little more forgiving than the recurve world.
Yeah, when you get those compounds, a lot of them are real adjustable as far as draw weight and draw length.
Yeah.
Anywhere down from kids to clear up adults, the same bow will fit all of them.
Yep, absolutely.
And
And all the reputable brands are making bows like that now that are
Right.
super adjustable. Well, the ones that want to stay around a long time are making them now. So
Yeah, I know when my kids were young, you had to decide, okay, do you want the kids bow? Do you want a medium bow, adult bow? And nothing varied that far, the draw
Yep.
length, maybe 3 or 4 inches at most.
Yep.
And some of them are only, like 1 or 2 inch draw length range and 10 pounds of draw weight range. So you had to go in and change and put different limbs on it and all that stuff. Now when the ones that you have, as the draw length gets longer, the range increases as well.
Yeah.
And those are nice because you can go from a kid to an adult, shoot the same bow, as long as they don't have like 32-inch draw length.
Yeah.
They don't quite go that far, but
it's funny you said that. I just read a post today on Facebook. A guy said he was looking for a bow to target shoot, a lead bow, and he needed one with 32 inches on a draw. And I thought, man, that guy must be 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
because that's a lot of length.
Well, a lot too in arms. I know one guy that used to work for me. He was a little bit taller than I am, but he had like a 27-inch draw length.
Yep.
I have 29 and a half. I shoot 29, but I had a 2-inch longer draw length than he did, and he was actually a little bit taller than I was. But he had shorter arms. I got longer arms.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot going into that, and we just got to fit the bow to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm super excited about this, being able to get into I really do like to shoot my crossbows and hunt with them and do all of that with them, but they're very cumbersome and they're very bulky and they're kind of difficult at times. But they work. They do what they're supposed to do. They fling that sharp pointy thing really fast.
Right.
And the end result is a dead deer at the end. I mean, that's the thing, but I'm super excited to get back into the compound because I really liked it when I was younger. And I thought I'd lost it forever with my back. And now I can see that that's not lost forever, thankfully. So
you start back with a low poundage bow and work up the muscles and eventually get back into it.
Yep, I'm right around 35 pounds on a good let off bow, on a good wheel bow. I can 35 to 40 pounds right now. I don't want to hunt with one until I can draw 52. That's just that's my personal thing, and that's all. It's just a number that's in my head since I was young for no reason, I guess. It's just stuck there.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned 52 pounds because my first bow that I killed a deer with was 52 pounds. And I was 20 feet up in the tree and it was 40 yards away. And I had a full length 2117 aluminum arrow, which is long and heavy.
Yeah.
And I think 125 or 145 grain tip on it, Muzzy broadhead.
Hmm.
And I shot, and that deer turned around, the arrow must have went clear up to the fletching. And that was at
Wow.
52 pounds.
Yeah, it's a number I've picked in my head that as soon as I can draw that consistently without a lot of pain or issues, that's when I'll start. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
just work your way back up. And
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, a lot of people like to shoot heavy weight. I don't shoot the real heavy weights, but I shoot 70 pounds. And
Yep.
I found if I'm shooting at 60, I don't lock into my form as well as I shoot at 70. But when I've shot 300 rounds with a 70-pound bow, it gets a little bit tough towards the end. But
Hmm.
it's weird for me. The longer I shoot with it, the better my scores to go.
I
My
got
first end isn't near as good as my second, and my best group is normally my last group. Go figure. I'm tired by then, but
the muscles are worked up. You know what I mean? Your muscles are warmed up by then, and your form is dialed in.
right.
It's second nature by that second. When you should be so tired, your body's second nature.
Yeah, you struggled and you go through it, and
Yep.
we'll start at one of those tournaments or a 3D or something like that. And he says, any practice shots? It's like, no, first one counts. I'm a bow hunter. First shot counts. The second one
Yep.
don't count because you don't get it.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like, there's no warm up. I just go into a call. I've never really been much for warming up. I make the first shot count and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then go on the blood trail.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some, I remember one time, I don't think I've told us any of the podcasts before, but we had an area we was hunting, not too far away from us. And, it was kind of rainy that day, not pouring down rain, but just kind of a mist. So I knew it was going to be kind of a wet day. And the guy I was hunting with, he says, yeah, I want to go hunting, because he was going, whether I went or not. And I knew, sure enough, if I didn't go, he's going to sit in my tree stand and kill a deer out of my tree stand. So I
Right.
went ahead and went. Well, guess what come walking by? A deer.
Yep.
And so I shot it and I watched where it runs. So I knew kind of where it went in. And so I waited, the appropriate time, half hour, an hour, and got down. And, it was light rain, but it missed it enough that it kind of washed most of the blood away. So I'm following footprints into the ground and a few spots of blood here and there. And I found it, but basically just tracking footprints because it was muddy. And I keep
Yep.
following those prints, and sure enough, there it was. And
Yep.
hauled it out.
Yeah. There's a lesson right there. I read over and over and over, need a dog. I need a dog. I need a dog. It's like people have forgotten how to trail their own deer.
Right.
And I'm not dogging on the guys that have dogs and use dogs at all, but it seems like that part of hunting has faded very much. Nobody's teaching their 8 and 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds to track deer. They're handing them the dog list. Here's your dog trackers. They'll find your deer for you. You just shoot it. They'll come get it. I feel like I think that's shouldn't happen. That's an important part of what we do. It makes
Right.
it rounds us out. It finalizes the kill to walk
Right.
up on like that. Because it's different behind a dog when the dog's chasing after it and you're just chasing a dog running through the woods in the dark. I don't know. I'm old school, I guess. I'm an old guy. I want to walk up on that deer myself and be the first one to see it, or have somebody say, "Oh, I found him."
Right.
Not necessarily, the excitement. Everybody knows that excitement.
Yeah. There's times when I thought, you can't find this, you can't find it. And then, it'd sure be nice to have a dog to track it, but there's some that we've tracked for 3-4 hours and never did get to them because spot here, spot there, it was probably a bad hit. And who knows where that dog would have went, try and follow it.
Yeah.
There's other times that we're following the dark, we can't find any, their blood's all gone. We're trying to find, we're walking around, and it's at night, we can't find them. And
Yeah.
we just like, okay, we don't know where it went. We can't find, we spent half the night looking for it. And then we're still hunting the same area because it was private property.
Yeah.
And then next time we go out, it's like wind's blowing from the direction where it run off to. Is like, okay, I smell something. Sure enough, daylight. We stopped about 30 feet from where it was at.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
happens. Yep. I shot one with my rifle this late antlerless season, and went down to find where she was at, and I found the blood, and I followed her, and I walked right up on her in a bed. Well, she kind of got up, and she ran away with her tail down, and I knew she was hit hard. I could see the blood.
right.
So I backed away from her, and I went around, and I was just going to leave and come back. I was going to let her run off, come back. And as I was walking out, I was walking on another trail, and I looked down one of our other mowed paths, and she came running at me. And when she turned in, I could see the wound, and it was back. And I knew that it was back when she ran off. So I went home, and I came back, and I pulled it up on the aerial on my map, and I went, well, she ran right into her the bedding area. I knew. And had I just turned off the trail and went in, she was laying right there. She didn't go 10 yards off the trail when I watched her jump. She fell down and she ran away from me. And I just didn't know it. I'd have had her. I went home and spent 3 hours waiting, and she was already done.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but for fear of running her off of our property, I left.
Yeah, and
So,
sometimes that's what you got to do. I know
yeah,
one time I was hunting, and this deer come running by, and um, I just moved my stand further up where it's coming down from, and I shot this deer. It was kind of walking. I shot and wasn't exactly sure where I ended up hitting it because I'm following it through trying to go there. Well, I waited and waited. Buddy shows up that we're hunting with, and we start tracking it. First I got down and said, okay, here's a blood trail. So I know for sure I hit it. Come back, we started walking down, we got down, probably 20, 30 yards, and this deer got up and starts running off. And he says, no, we're not going any further because we'll just chase it forever. So we walked straight out, so we knew where that was at. And problem we have is they're supposed to get 3 or 4 inches of snow that night. But we couldn't keep tracking it because we got this snow coming. And so we come back the next night, Buddy and his son, we come out there, and I said, we're looking for a lump with snow on it. We aren't going to see the deer because there's too much snow on the ground. So sure enough, we're walking around, and I ended up finding it. Here's this lump with snow on it. And when you have that not great hit, or bad hit, it can take a while. So we got to it, and it was, down into, below freezing because we had snow.
right.
And we got to it. And this is 24 hours after I shot it, over 24 hours, because I shot it during daylight and come back the next day towards the evening. And sure enough, that deer was still warm inside. The legs were froze. It was still warm, so it hadn't been dead very long.
Yeah,
It had enough that snowed on it that night, and it just laid there and died. So, it says you don't want to chase them.
No, well, no, they'll just keep running and running and running and running. They just that adrenaline will keep them alive for a long time.
Right.
And then your neighbors will get them.
Right. They'll find them and they get them, especially if you don't have a big property area.
Yeah. Yeah. And the property we hunt is small. We hunt a 37-acre piece. We're lucky we have good neighbors on one side. The neighbors that we have on the other side, not so much. But they're not absolutely horrible, but not, if we shoot a deer and it runs in there, they're not going to let us come. They won't. I've asked before, and I've asked before it even happened. So we avoid that whole edge of the property at all costs.
Just avoid it.
Yeah. We try not to hunt anywhere near it. We're set up in one spot that we won't. We're real selective when we hunt it. It's only about 60 yards from the property line, but it's super good. It's a great pre-rut seeking space. So we hunt it. And luckily the deer, with the new technology with broadheads and all of that, these fast bows, they don't normally make it more than 30, 40 yards, and they're done for. So if we do our part, they're done within sight normally.
Yeah, they don't run off too far unless you make that bad hit, like
right.
Done.
and that happens. I mean, and it does happen. I mean, but for years, I stood a pretty hard stance on only fixed bladed broadheads, Well, kind of softened a little bit. I've started to shoot Thorn's broadheads. I shoot their crown fixed, and that thing is just wicked. Looks like a 12 gauge slug went through a deer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's only an inch and an eighth in diameter, but the cutting surface is 3 1/4 inches because of the bevels of the blades. It cores it out. There's no way for healing. It won't heal. It can't.
Oh,
It cores a hole out when it goes through. But I've started to shoot their HPX mechanical, which is, I believe, 1 3/4 inches cut, and that I've not shot one through anything yet. But I was in camp with Greg Wilson, the owner of Thorn, one of the owners, and he shot a doe with it, and the exit wound, your whole hand would fit through it.
oh, and that's a good one.
Yeah, and that deer ran away from him 15 yards, tried to go uphill, tipped over and rolled down and landed basically at the base of his tree stand. So it didn't go anywhere, fell down right at his feet. So that kind of softened my stance on these mechanicals and the way their deployment system. They can't deploy prematurely because they have a plunger. And they just don't fail. So seems like all the quirks that new broadhead companies have in the beginning, that, the failure to open, the open and premature, all of that, they work that out super fast, and they just don't have that issue anymore. And they shoot like field points. That's no joke.
Yeah, that's the thing about mechanicals, is they're going to shoot maybe not exactly, but close enough that, at hunting ranges, you're not going to notice a difference.
Oh, for sure. And no exposed blades on these is the other thing too. So they truly are just an extended field point.
Yeah, I actually brought up their website. You can take a look at a couple of them.
Yeah.
For those that get to watch the video, you'll be able to see them. I'm going to share my screen here. You should be able to see the Thor broadheads.
Oh yeah, that's the XV there. Yeah.
Yeah. For those just listening, you're not going to be able to do it, but it's thorbroadheads.com is where we went to, and that's what we're going to look at here. Let me go ahead and stop the share for those that are watching this.
Yeah.
That's I kind of like to look at them, and they're kind of nice looking. There's a couple different varieties in there. It looks like they have. So
yeah, they have several, and there's none of them that are going to do wrong. You know what I mean? That XV, I haven't shot that one myself, but it's designed for high speed, up to 750 feet a second. So
yeah, because you need different broadheads when you're shooting with a crossbow, just because the force will open those things up. And I was never the support of low poundage using mechanicals, because you always lose some force entering in. And if you're already shooting a low weight,
absolutely,
like in your 40, 45, maybe even 50 pounds, you just lose so much having to open those blades up. But, when you're shooting 60, 65, 70 pounds, you've got it. I shoot 70 pounds. So I got plenty of kinetic energy to open them up, hitting them. When you look at the kinetic energy it's required to kill a deer, and last time I looked, my arrows, it's still had enough kinetic energy out to 60, 80 yards, 100 yards, something like that. I forget now, but they just got so much energy now. I shoot muzzies. That's the first broadhead I had. I've always shot muzzies. I do have some of the Montax that I was going to put on mine, because I didn't have time to get all of my stuff set up, and I got some of those, but I never set them up and shot them. I was going to set them up on my second bow to shoot them on there, because the broadheads don't necessarily hit the same point as field tips.
Yeah.
You know, with the muzzies, they don't. What I did is there's a little thing called a U-bar, which is kind of a cone-shaped washer. And you put a rubber O-ring on it and you can kind of adjust them so that 'cause I shoot a 3-blade. So you line the
Yeah.
3 blades up with the fletching and then you
Yeah.
find you can kind of tweak them a little bit here and there to adjust them so they all fly the same. And I know when I shoot my hunting bow, my arrows shoot a little bit low and left with targets.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it because I know my broadheads are on.
Yeah.
Because I've set them up so that I can, shoot depending which arrows I had. If I had PLC come out with what they call the hunter shaft, which is 007 straightness one. I don't know why you call it hunter shaft. I shoot their Comp Pros, which is 001.
Yeah.
That's what I shoot, but I tried them out and I couldn't get them to group in the X ring, but I could get them to shoot in the white on a single spot. That's kind of difference between that, which is okay. Most of my shots are 10 to 20 yards anyway, and I'm off by an inch or two. It's not really a big deal.
Right.
Because you have,
That's pretty negligible, right?
yeah, it's not a big deal. Most of my deer have been, 10 yards or less, most of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that I will say that's the one thing that I do like about the crossbows. 40 yards is a really magic number for those things. 40, 50 yards, I'm really comfortable. I know guys cringe when you start getting to 50, 60 and you start going way out, but these things are just zinging at 50 yards. There should be no fear of that. If you're doing everything else right and that deer's not on alert, there should be no reason you shouldn't be able to zip arrows through them at 50 yards. I mean,
right.
Every crossbow will do that. The buck I shot in Kentucky last year was 50 on the button, and I double lunged him. I mean, it complete pass through. He was 282 pounds on the hoof, and just punched him. Sounded like it went through a rain barrel when it went through him.
Yeah.
Instead of that thwap, it was a big thump, big hollow thump. And I watched him go legs up. He went 40 yards, and only because he was running downhill, and just went legs up. I watched his legs go up. Biggest buck I'd ever killed at that point. Big 9-point that the outfitter had never seen. He just showed up chasing does. First time he'd ever seen him on the farm, and the last time he'd ever been seen on the farm.
Yeah. You're in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, and that's just it. He came in chasing does and hit a drag line that I dropped walking into my blind, and he hit that drag line and turned and went on and on, just right on it, on a rope. Just walked right in front, just like like the script, like I scripted it to happen. Just walked out, I gave him the blat, he turned and looked at me, and it was over for him.
Yeah.
Them crossbows are so fast, they're not, that just whacked him. He was done. So,
they're a little bit louder, but they're a little bit faster. And
Yep.
Sometimes I've heard of people that I've actually had a couple people tell me the same story where the deer were standing broadside and they shot and heard a noise and turned and looked at where the noise coming from and puts a broadhead between the eyes.
yeah, I don't know.
It drops them.
Yeah, I can imagine that could happen. Yeah, I don't know. I hope it never happens to me. I don't want to be. That'll be a picture that never makes the internet if it happens to me. I can promise you.
Yeah.
I know it happens, and I know things happen, but that's cringeworthy.
Yeah, because it just so much chance for error when they do that. But that's why a lot of people don't shoot the long shots, is because it just takes one little bitty step.
Yep.
To be a perfect shot to a shot that's going to take them, a day or two to die.
Yeah, or you're feeding the buzzards at that point, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I get it, but I guess in my opinion, 50 yards isn't a far shot anymore. I mean, really it's not, but there are guys that are going to scream, yes, it is too. And I get it.
Well, how far do you practice? Do you practice at 20 yards? Then
practice all the way out to 60.
Yeah. If you practice the 20 yards, that you shouldn't take a shot at 20 yards. You should be less than that. But if you're practicing at 80 yards and you can group at 80 yards, then, a 60-yard shot is, not out of the realm of what you can hit.
and when I practice at 50, you still can't shoot the same place. I'm still wrecking bolts if I try to shoot the same spot. So,
Right.
it's really comfortable. It just lays in there. Now I've gotten a different crossbow. I won a new crossbow last year at a raffle,
Oh, yeah.
Barnett, and I was shooting a Killer Instinct. I love the thing. We've shot. It finally split. I finally lost a limb, and I'll bet it's been shot 2,000 times. And it finally delaminated on one of the limbs. And I honestly can't say enough about that because they sent 2 heads to replace my busted limbs.
Oh,
They sent me 2 heads. So I've got one and then another one. I mean, I don't know if they're expecting it to break and I have another one already or what, but either way, I'm okay with it. And then this Barnett that I won is even more impressive than that Killer Instinct, and it's not as fast.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, the one's a 405, the other's a 385, and the 385 is a better bow. It shoots better.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's me. I don't know. Might be the system I'm shooting, because I didn't change my bolts at all. I just carried that bolt right over to see how it would shoot, and it shoots really well. I shoot full metal jackets at 20 inches with a 75 grain insert and 100 grain heads. So they're not fast by any means, but they hit like a truck.
Yeah, you get the mass behind them.
Yeah,
They want to
they
stop.
hit hard. They'll flip a block target over at 20 yards.
Oh, yeah.
Knock it over if you hit it too high. Yeah.
I know back when I was working at Bass Pro here, probably not quite, probably about 15 years ago, something like there, we'd get Barnetts in, and you said yours is good. Most of them were just terrible. The quality was terrible.
The last 2 years they've kind of come around the corner, and the quality has gotten much better. Because I know they were bad for a while. Killer Instinct gets a bad rap too. I mean, there's no mistake. They've had bad problems with limbs, but they've made up for that in customer service, and now they seem to have fixed it.
Right.
So, it cost them a lot of money to keep people happy in the end, but now they've fixed the issue. So let's hope for them.
I know when crossbows still, being popular, Horton and Barnett were the names in crossbows.
Yeah.
And then Horton sold out, and now 10 Point owns them now. But,
Yeah.
Then Barnett went down to where they were terrible. When I was putting them together, here not too long ago, I could take a 10 Point, put it together, and a third of the time it took me to put together a Barnett. And we're trying to put them together, and we're having to modify them because things don't fit. And it's like their tolerance was plus or minus a half inch.
Oh, wow.
On stuff, because things aren't fitting. You're fiddling around with it. You're taking forever to put them together. And like I said, I could assemble 3 10 Points the time it took me to do one Barnett. And I wouldn't push them. And then they come out with there's other ones. And now it's nice to know that they're at least got their quality down, where they're at least a little more decent bows.
Yeah. Well, when I put this one together out of the box, I didn't have any issues with that. Everything snapped, you know what I mean? Went right together like it was supposed to. Everything fit right where it was supposed to. When the scope came mounted already on the rail. I took it out when I put it all together, I took it out in the first 2 shots. I only had to make 2 adjustments. It was that close right out of the box. I was surprised at that, honestly. But yeah, 2 adjustments and I was hitting bullseyes. So maybe I got lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good that, because when I was working at Bass Pro, I didn't have any that come out of the box like that.
Really?
None of them. They were all problem.
And this is
childs, as you might say.
Yeah, and this one is honestly probably one of their least expensive models. It's under $500.
Oh, yeah.
So that, again, got lucky maybe. I got one of the good ones. Who knows? As long as it stays in one piece, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and you're now, where do you hunt? Where are you at? Which,
Nebraska.
oh, okay. Oh yeah, boy, that'd be terrible. I'd hate to hunt there.
Well, we're having a heat wave. I looked at the temperature a little bit earlier today, and it was like 35.
Oh wow, it's warmed
Well,
up for you.
yesterday it was single digits.
I was gonna say here 2 weeks ago, wasn't it about 35 below?
Yeah, it was the wind chill's been down there into the 30s and 40s for the wind chill, and our
But it
temperatures
doesn't,
down
the
into.
wind always blows there, doesn't it? Isn't it
Oh
always
yeah,
windy? Yeah.
but the only time you don't have wind is maybe first thing in the morning. We've had winds in 40, 50 mile an hour winds, and
Ugh.
it's
It's my
thanks.
least favorite thing is the wind.
It's hard to shoot in the wind.
It's hard to do everything in the wind.
Yeah, especially being outside and the wind like that blowing stuff away. And
Yeah.
I thought I had my cover for my four-wheeler, anchored down, and it disappeared. I don't know where it went.
Gone. The neighbors have a new cover for their four-wheeler. That's where it went.
Yeah, but I don't know where it's at. So
So are you a strictly archery hunter? Is that all you do is archery hunt?
no, I'll do rifle, and I don't do too much shotgun anymore, just because my knees don't like me walking that much in the fields.
Yeah.
And I can spend all day walking fields and get 3 pheasants,
Gotcha. Yeah.
or I can go walk to my tree stand, sit in a tree stand, and wait for a big deer to come by.
True that. Yeah, you're right about that. Whole lot more meat on a deer than a pheasant.
Right.
Are you in the part?
I
Do
did
you
a
have
lot of
both?
pheasant hunting.
Do you have both deer there, mule deer and whitetail where you're at?
Where I'm at on the eastern end, just whitetail. But if you go out further west, you
Yeah.
have both.
Gotcha.
And if you go way out by the Wyoming Colorado border, there are some elk out there, but not
And I'm
much.
sure antelope once you get that far west.
Yeah, you get antelope out here, not too far away for antelope.
That's probably on the list here in the next couple of years for us, is some antelopes. So we know some people in South Dakota. So
Yeah, there's always a lot of good hunting up there in South Dakota.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of. I'm lucky. I get to go to a lot of places. Get to see a lot of different states, different outfits, different properties. And I'm lucky that way. I hunt Kentucky now every year. This will be the third year there. I didn't kill last year. The weather was awful. It was super hot the whole time we were there. It cooled off the last 2 days we were there, and the deer finally got on their feet, and then we had to leave.
Yeah. What
And
time of
never
year was that?
We were there the best time of year, November 3rd through the 8th. And it was 65 to 80 degrees every afternoon. The cameras were dead the whole time we were there.
Yeah.
And the last day that I was in the stand, I saw 2 bucks, and that was it. And it is what it is. That's why it's hunting, not killing.
Right.
The year before that, though, I went out there. I killed that buck there. It was 2021 was a really good year for me hunting wise. I killed my biggest buck ever there in Kentucky on the 6th of November. Came home back to Michigan, and on the 17th of November, killed one that was even bigger than that with my rifle, antler wise, not quite as big body wise, but still over 200 dress. So still a nice buck, 4.5-year-old deer that we knew. Just a really, really nice 9-point he was a 10, but we called him the bent G2 buck. His G2s went back and then tipped up. So they looked bent, like he bent them. And when I shot him, I thought he was a different deer. I thought he was one of our great big 8-points. And when I walked up on him, I looked down and I went, oh, the bent G2 buck is a broken G2 buck. He broke it off, the long one. It was about 6 or 7 inches long. And he broke it off clean with the beam. So I'm kind of excited to get him back from the taxidermist. It'll be another few months yet, but
Yeah.
that one's a good one. That's the first deer that we actually killed on our property that we manage, and not the biggest one that we had on the list, but regardless, on the list. 4.5 years old, just good solid deer for where we're at and what we have to, what we're looking for.
Just thought I'd check real quick, make sure nobody in the group had any comments yet, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, it doesn't matter to me what guys do, how they, you know what I mean? It's your hunt, it's your tag, you do what you want.
Right.
I'll never bash a guy for, oh, he killed a 1.5-year-old buck. Okay. That's his deal. I doesn't mean I'm not saying under my breath, man, if he'd have let that have a couple more years, he'd really been impressed. Doesn't mean I'm not doing that either. But I'm not going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. You do what you want. It's your tag, it's your property, it's your deer.
Right.
You want it? Kill it. If it makes your heart go bang, bang, let it rip.
Yeah. A new hunter, I know when my daughter started, I told her, okay, the first deer you see, it was rifle. She wasn't able to pull enough weight for archery, but I said, the first deer you see, shoot it. If it's a fawn, we don't care. Now, after that, let's talk about letting the fawns walk and then shooting the does. And sure enough, she had a fawn and a doe coming through, and she let the fawn walk and took the doe.
Yeah.
But your first deer, you just got to get that first one, and
yes,
get going, and then after that, you can look a little bit more. And I don't necessarily hunt for the bucks. Well, so you can't eat the rack, and the does would normally taste a little better. So that's generally what I go for. And when you have here in Nebraska, we used to only just have 2 tags. So I get 2 archery tags, and it allows you to take a buck or a doe on either one. And I would shoot, especially the first deer that come by, I'd shoot that, and then I'd wait till, because ours started middle of September and went through December 31st, except the 9 days during rifle, it shut down. And I would hunt until December, just shoot, waiting for a buck to come by. And then in December, then I just, whatever, I didn't wait for a buck anymore. I just get meat in the freezer. And
yeah. And that's kind of where they've gone here in Michigan with these. That's a whole nother conversation. There is our NRC, Natural Resources Commission. They make all the rules and they change everything, and they're terrible. They mismanage our deer horribly. Right now we can shoot 2 bucks and 10 does. Used to be our doe tags were by county. Every county had a number, DMU number, and it got drawn like that. And your doe tags were good for either private land or state land in that county only. That was it. Well, now they're just universal. You go buy your doe tag, your antlerless tags. You can go anywhere you want in the whole state. Doesn't matter. And just whack away. Just start blasting away. Look, I get it. People are feeding their family on these things, but do they really need 12 of them? I mean, if they're shooting adult deer, that's a lot of meat,
Right.
12 adult deer is a whole bunch of meat. More than a cow, for sure, and that needs to be adjusted. We're working on, truly, our tags right now are a combo tag. Our 2 buck tags are good either sex. At this point, you can shoot does and bucks on both tags. So instead of killing 2 bucks on our places, we won't. And we won't kill 4 is what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
Because we're allowed. It's my wife and I that hunt there. That's it. And if she shot a buck, I would be super selective at that point on which one I killed. However, if I shoot a buck, I don't want her to be selective, because back to that whole, she's only killed 2 deer in her whole entire life.
Oh, yeah.
So, send it. Start shooting. I want her to start knocking them down and laying down blood trails. That's the excitement. That's why we do this.
Right.
So, do it. Send those things down range. I want you to. I get more excited for her to see deer and get a chance than for me. I've done this a lot,
Right.
And again, back to that whole, I get to go all these great places and do all these great things. So the time I get to spend at home with her to watch her do this, that's truly what matters now. I've been doing this a lot of years, and to watch her now get excited when a deer comes running through the field chasing a doe, a buck's chasing a doe. She got to see her first chasing this year and true rut activity, bucks dogging does hard. She was like, look at them things go. And they were just flying everywhere. It was great. And not one of the deer was legal to shoot because we have antler point restrictions here. So they weren't legal. They were just crazy little 2.5-year-old bucks running wild chasing does. But it was the greatest thing she'd ever seen at that point. So, I mean, my whole mantra, if you look on my Facebook page and read it, is, memories are forever and they're free. So you should get out and make some. Well,
Right.
that one's burned into my brain forever. There's no video. I had the video camera there, but there's no video evidence of that because I forgot to turn on the camera. I was too excited. So I didn't even have the camera running. So, whoopsies, but it's okay because it's right here. It's all recorded.
Yeah, you got it in a memory bank. Yeah.
You got it. Yep. And so does she. And that's what really matters, and kids, to get kids started, to talk to kids that are new and fresh at it. Like you said, they shot a fawn. That's awesome. I hate to read where guys just rip these kids that have shot a fawn. It's just a fawn. It's probably going to get hit by a car anyway. So, better it ends up in the freezer than in a possum's belly. I mean,
Right. And they're really good, real
right.
nice and tender. And
they taste super good.
oh yeah, you don't get much, but it's really good tender meat. Well,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
eating veal.
It's better than eating veal.
Veal is just a calf.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yep,
no big deal.
I joke with these guys around here because Michigan has an elk lottery. Well, if I ever got drawn for one, I might be tempted to shoot a 300-pound calf just because of the tenderness of the meat.
Right.
I don't know if I want an 800 or 900-pound cow. I'd take that 400-pound calf. But
when I went to Canada, I went moose hunting. The guy I was going with, he had the bull tag, and another guy was going with him, and I went up, and the other guy had the bull tag, so I ended up with a cow tag in a different area, and so I couldn't shoot a bull anyway, and I ended up shooting one, with the rifle. It was rifle season, and it was long ways away, and it was one of those interesting shots that you make, and that's another whole story on that. But
yeah,
that was a story I'll remember for quite a while. And the food was, the meat was just excellent.
Yeah, see, that's one of my favorite meats is moose meat. Moose meat, caribou meat are right at the top, those two together. White-tailed deer meat, it's edible. It's good. It's not horrible by any means, but it isn't the best venison on the planet. Moose and caribou are way better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't had caribou yet, but
bear meat's good. I like bear meat. I'm not picky. I'll eat most of it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I won't starve to death, I can promise.
What was that? A lot of it's how it's prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. I mean, got to do it right. And I cooked in restaurants for 10 years, so yeah, I can figure it out. It turns out okay. Well, I like good food.
Yeah, it all depends on how quick you got to it, how you cleaned it, when you're field dressing it.
Yep.
There we go. Had to hit the mute while I coughed.
Oh, whoops.
How quick do you get it cooled off, and did you nick the intestines, or did you hit in the bladder or something, and get that in there, and it's all just I've seen people take big knife and just slap it in and just start sawing through it.
Oh yeah, I've seen all of that. Yep.
My brother started this to take, you cut into it. He used the fillet knife, just kind of flay it all back, and you got the hide back highway even before you even go in there, and then just barely go in and let it pull it all out, and it all comes
Yep.
out in one unit. And
See, and we've actually, believe it or not, and I'm gotten on the bandwagon. We don't even gut them on our property anymore. We bring them home and hang them up and do it that way. Um, it for me, it's cleaner, it's faster. I can get them strung up, split them with a zipper knife, and everything just comes right out into my dump bin, and they're gone. It's that easy, and I've got water right there to rinse. Uh, as long as it's not 85 degrees outside, I wouldn't do it that way, obviously.
right.
But late October and into November, it's normally plenty cool for that for an hour between finding it on the ground and getting it to my house. I only live 6 miles from my property.
Yeah, you're that close. I'd probably do that too, and then not leave the gut pile in the middle of the forest where you're hunting to track the
Yeah.
coyotes that
And
chase deer off. And
we've already got issues with those. I see them in the daylight. It's continual. It's ridiculous, but it's my fault because we don't go hunt them.
I was just gonna say, well, time to go out and do some coyote shooting.
Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on that. It's finally healed up from I've got the back issues under control. Now we're waiting on a double knee replacement. I'm doing that next.
Oh,
So I've been kind of one step at a time. You know what I mean? It's a struggle most days, but we do it anyway because it's what we do. It's who I am. I have to.
right.
I can't not do it. That's not an option. So I mean, and we're on this not gutting the deer in the woods and all of that. I don't know that it doesn't really bother anything other than it concentrates predators in one area
Right.
for a short amount of time, at least until they get rid of it. So I don't, and it's like I said, it's more honestly for the cleanliness part of it. I can get them home and they're up, everything comes out and it's not a mess everywhere. And I've got water there to clean it up with to make sure everything gets rinsed off right.
Yeah.
Because handling is everything taste wise. But yeah, and then yeah, the main way that I do this whole deer thing is I use my thing is mock scrapes. It kills more deer than people can imagine all over the country. It's probably the most underrated way to kill deer. Honestly, the old timers will tell you that it works because they hunt on the scrapes.
Yep.
But those guys were all focused on the natural scrapes and they all were afraid to make fake ones. You can't make a fake scrape. They'll know the difference. No, they won't. No, they do not.
They'll know if they made it or not.
Right. They don't care who made it. They just want to know why he's there.
Right.
That's their whole deal is who is that and where did they come from? So I mean, and I make, in all seriousness, I probably on our property will make in excess of 100 a season. Very easily over 100. It's constant and continual. I connect the dots continually throughout the season to move deer around where I want them, manipulate the travel patterns with them. Fully manipulate the deer. I'll get right in their head and I will make them not know what to do next. Create that doubt in their mind and forces them to stay visible. It forces them to stay in an area where I want them, where we're going to see them. I know they're going to come back immediately. If they hear me walk through, if they're laying down in the brush and they hear something walk through there, they don't know if it was you or another deer. If they can't see you, they don't know what it is. And that's not hard to do to hide from them. Screening will do a lot. They just hear something go by. They don't know if it's another deer. Well, then the next thing you know, here he comes to see who just walked through. And it might be too late for him by then.
Yeah.
So I fully believe that now fully mature bucks are a whole nother situation. Those deer are not easily fooled by any means. Let's make no mistake there. I'm not saying that you can fool a 5 and 6-year-old buck with mock scrapes every single day. That ain't gonna happen. That I understand fully. But for the average guy who couldn't give a rip about a 5 or a 6-year-old buck, if he kills one, it was by accident most of the time because it ran through at the right time. for the average guy, which is the guys that's who I want to help, are the average hunter, because that's what we are. We're all average Joes, right? So, and we want to help everyone. So I want that guy that's whacking that 2.5-year-old 8-point or that 3-year-old 10-point. I want that guy to go, holy cow, that's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it was because that guy taught me how to do this, or that guy, I listened, that kind of thing. If what I say about this mock scrape thing can help one guy a season do what he wants to do, then I've done what I should in my mind. Obviously, I want to help way more guys than that. We got, I don't know how many, a lot of my friends killed this year because of using stuff that I'm helping them do. So I'm excited by that, and it just keeps gaining ground now. It's picking up speed, and I don't think it's going to stop. I don't see it stopping now. So, and things like this help, getting to talk to guys like you on these podcasts. That helps get the word out that, there's other ways. I color outside the lines a lot.
Yeah, don't follow the lines.
No, I'm not that guy. I'm way outside the box, I can promise. Don't follow the rules the way most guys do.
Well, if you do what everybody else is doing, you get the same thing everybody else has got.
Right.
You hear that all the time, and you want something different, you got to do something different.
Yeah, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. It just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
So I don't know that your deer on the eastern end of Nebraska, I'm sure would easily be manipulated by scrapes. You get to the western end where the mule deer and them cohabitate. I don't know how that would work out so much, because I have never heard anyone say that the mule deer act like whitetails. They don't make scrapes rub so much like that, I don't believe, that I'm aware of.
They're more roam around.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. They more nomadic than a whitetail, just cruising the sage flats and that kind of thing. I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say that they make scrape lines and rubs and all of that like a whitetail will.
I don't know, because I don't hunt them. So
I might get some hate mail now saying you're telling me I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about mule deer, not a single thing.
I've never hunted with whitetail.
They got huge antlers, that I'll say.
Yeah. And their antler structure is a little different.
Yeah, it is a little
whitetail.
weird. Yeah, they're neat. They're different for sure. So yeah, that's the whitetail is king, obviously. And then I would love to go on a coos deer hunt. That's been on the top of the list for a lot of years, but again, the country where they live is pretty rugged, and I'm not real mobile at the moment. So
Right. Yeah.
you probably have to put that off just a little longer.
Yeah, you're not going to go on an elk hunt in the mountains anytime soon, are you?
No, unfortunately, no, I'm not going to be doing that either. And the pronghorn probably aren't going to happen unless I can do a water hole hunt. That I could do pretty easily.
Yeah, they've got some of those out there where, out a little bit further west in Nebraska, they've got a lot of antelope out there, and they have a lot of water holes, and you could just set up on a water hole and
you just wait
for
for
them
them. Yeah, wait for them to come drink. That's all there is to that. So yeah, and then turkey season. We turkey hunt, of course. My wife's a turkey fool. She loves it. That's her thing. Really, that's her niche. She really loves the turkey thing. So
Hey, do you archery for turkey or do you shotgun?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Archery?
we use both. Either or. It depends on the mood. I don't know. I like shooting them with the crossbow. Honestly, I like the archery part of it. So she's got a new 410 turkey gun though that she got as a gift. So she's she's itching to make that one go crack. So
Yeah.
it's a nice little gun. One of those little Stevens 301s. It's a really nice little gun.
Oh yeah.
So but yeah, we do it all, honestly. It's not just deer. That's where my main focus is deer. But there are other things that I get distracted with for a few weeks here and a few weeks there. But for the most part, the deer thing it's what I do. It's part of my everyday, especially the last 5-6 years, honestly. started with the buck stick thing, like we talked about when we initially talked. And it's just kind of progressed forward to where we are now. Doing my own thing and trying to help people along the way, honestly. And we've got some new products coming. It'll be within the month, they'll be ready to go. All mock scrape stuff, of course.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know in the Facebook
Yep.
group, when those are out there, let us know, and maybe we'll do
Yep.
another event just talking about the new products you have coming out.
Yeah, that sounds great. As soon as that's why I haven't brought it up a whole lot, because I don't have any of the .com stuff ready yet. It's not quite done. But we're close, very close. So we're starting to release a few teases here and there, showing a little bit of what we're doing and what's coming. So
That's good.
By March, we should be ready to really fully let it rip.
So are you part of the owners in that, or are you
Just it's a conglomerate. It's my daughter and us doing it. My daughter owns it, and I'm just building and doing the scrape part of it. And that's that. It's my wife and I doing that end of it, the scrapes, and yeah, it's been kind of a long time coming, honestly. It's been just kind of come full circle now. We had some stuff go on previously that went on. That's all, life changes.
We all have those events going on.
Yeah, sometimes you get handed some lemons, so you make lemonade, right?
Right.
So it is what it is. I got some deer meat, so I made jerky.
Yeah.
Tough pieces to chew, so I made some jerky. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we get that, I'd definitely like to talk to you again after we get going and all of that.
Yeah, I'm sure the listeners would like to see what's going on, because that looks like, it sounds like something that'd be, advantageous for all of us to learn is how to do the mock scrapes and stuff like that.
Some of the products that we use that you can use it, and it's a lot of it is advantageous, even more so for archery hunters, because you can use all these products as stoppers to get deer to stop exactly broadside where you want them at exactly the right yardage. They walk up, they stop broadside at 18 yards if you want, or 15 yards, whatever you need them. Gives you that 5 seconds, gives you that split second that you need to get them to stop moving just long enough to send one. I mean, so there's all of that, yardage markers, any of that kind of thing. So the list goes on and on and on with that stuff. That, like before, that's a whole nother conversation that could go for a whole hour by itself easily.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things to talk about, and that's what's so nice about, the way I've got this set up, this podcast. I started a little over a year ago, and I've done quite a few podcasts now.
Yeah, I saw that you had quite a few episodes.
Yeah, this is, I think, number 69 or 70.
Okay.
So I've been doing it for a while, and it's just so interesting, talking to different stuff. I kind of moved in a little bit more of the interview format. I still have content I put out, different things. I started off with, because Archery Talk 101 podcast is all about helping new archers.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I started off with, what do you do when you think you want to start shooting a bow? Take a few different steps, what to look for when you get to the store, safety things and all kinds of stuff. And then, doing interviews with people that own businesses that are real archery related, and talking with everybody from teenagers to Olympic archers and everything in between. Those that their whole focus is shooting 3D targets, competing at the Olympic level in 3D, and competing on targets, and compounds, crossbows like you shoot, into longbows, recurve, and Olympic archery, everything in between. It's all a big group. I've talked to people all over the world, and that's one nice thing about the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group is we have archers in that group from all over the world. There's people in there from China, Italy, Africa, Canada, United Kingdom,
I don't
Yes,
think
so,
people realize how popular archery is like around the world, just archery in general.
right,
Not necessarily archery hunting, but archery. There's a lot of people all over the world that shoot paper.
right, right, lots of them.
Lots and lots of them.
You know,
And there's a lot of them that are really, really, really good at it.
yeah, and some of them, unfortunately, I can't get them on the podcast because they can't speak English, and I
Oh,
don't speak their language. So,
that's
that's kind of a
unfortunate.
little bit of restriction. You have to speak English to get on the podcast, or have somebody who can translate for you.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the only requirement to get on the podcast, is that we can talk in English, because
yeah.
it's the only language I'm fluent in.
Right. It's the only one I know, so that's the one we have to use. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, that's what we have to use. And
Yeah.
I know when I was looking at thinking about putting together an online archery coaching program, because I become an archery coach in 1995. So I've been teaching for a long time, and I've taught all kinds of people, from kids to adults to one guy had MS, so we couldn't teach the normal technique because he had to lock his arm out in order to be able to shoot, because muscles just wouldn't hold it,
Right.
to setting up bows to shoot 2 arrows at one time. I've done tons of stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and he's in the group. The first guy I started with was, I just started with helping on Messenger. And then to, see how the coaching will work online, through a Zoom call, like we're recording this show
Yep.
here, helping them out. So I had another guy that I helped out on here, and getting better, just to see, how's it going to work teaching online. And seems to work really good. We've got
If it works,
guys
you
and
use
stuff,
it.
we can see them, we can record your videos, watch them. And I got some videos I created, and here's how I do it. um
Yep.
I think it's the best for me.
Right.
May not be for you, but that's what we're going to find out in coaching.
Right. Exactly. Well,
Everybody has their own little difference, because your body's not like mine, and no two bodies are the same, but this basic techniques are going to be basically the same.
right.
We
Right.
teach less stuff. And my background, I spent 20 years in martial arts, so I have a little bit different ideas and concepts, by being efficient with your stroke going through and putting your power through the target. So I teach slightly a little different. I still teach the back tension release. It's all basically the same there.
Yeah.
But that's all stuff that's a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
that's what one of the things you can do in the Facebook group is, if you want critique on your form, take some videos, upload them. We'll take a look at it. We'll give you
Yeah.
pointers.
Yeah.
And that's just what all the group is. And those that have made it this far is, I'll leave a link in the description, how to get to the Facebook group.
Mhm.
And then if you're interested in archery coaching, I'll leave a link in there to a form to fill out to see if coaching might be for you.
Okay.
We'll book a free 15-minute consultation call to see if coaching might be for you. It might not, we won't know, but it won't cost you nothing to find out. So I'll leave
Right.
a link in there.
Okay.
And then I can leave a link to your site if you would like, in the description. If they want to get a
Okay.
hold of you, talk to you about your product as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. You just need me to send it to you in a message, then I can send you
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I can do that.
right.
So I'd like to thank you for being on the show today. And do you have any parting thoughts before we end this?
No, the only thing that just popped into my head was you're talking about this coaching thing and the teaching thing and all of that. I just got the opportunity, speaking of being taught, I got offered a spot in the class to become a official scorer for commemorative bucks in Michigan. So I'm going April 15th. I go for that. I go to that class. So that honestly, that's another little thing that just is like, wow, this is great. Because now, I mean, I imagine the huge animals that I'm going to get to score and look at and see because of that. So that's exciting. So I could close with that actually, because I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that would be good to see all these nice bucks coming in to get scored. And yeah,
Yeah, we
that's
get to
really
do
nice.
turkeys and bears here too with that commemorative
Oh,
bucks in Michigan. So lots of different things.
yeah, we have turkeys down here in Nebraska and deer, but we don't have bear.
Yeah, Yeah, we have too many bears up, honestly. So.
Yeah, don't send them
yeah,
down here,
that's-
though.
No, I won't. I won't.
We don't want them down here.
I appreciate you having me on. I do know that and appreciate your time.
And my name is Roy Canterbury. I've been your host today on Archery Talk 101 with James on the line here. Enjoy. Remember, I'll leave comments in there and we'll see you next time.